to first recognize who we have here today. We have two TPA governing board members, County Commissioner Wise and Royal Palm Beach Commissioner Hamara. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I am going to first start this off with a fun little quiz. So if you could please take out your mobile device and scan that QR code there that's on the screen. If you're for some reason, if you're not able to see the QR code, then you can also input that manually using the code 81396127 at menti.com.
While we're all getting loaded up into Mentimeter, this will be the platform in addition to the Zoom participants that we have about 20 people online. This will be a platform for you to be able to ask questions and answers that we'll be monitoring. So just keep note of that.
So where is your jurisdiction in relationship to the Safe Streets and Roads for All application process? Have you been already awarded funding and are working on your plan, demonstration projects, or implementation? Are you currently developing your agreement with the Federal Highway Administration? Are you considering an application? Or what is even Safe Streets and Roads for All, and how do I apply? If you're here for that, we will be answering those questions.
No wrong answer. This is just make sure that you all are actually using Mentimeter. So thank you for those who actually got in. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like a good handful of folks are here because they have already been awarded funding. So that's very, very exciting. I would like to first introduce myself and the speakers that we have here today. My name is Valentina Facuz. I'm the pedestrian bicycle coordinator here for the Palm Beach TPA. I administer our Transportation Alternatives Program, which is a 3-year small scale funding program that's focused on pedestrian and bicycle safety projects for improvements. I'm also the liaison for our Vision Zero Advisory Committee, and I do all things ped bike. So I will now introduce our next speaker, Mr. Darren Thacker. Darren Thacker, who is joined here virtually, is a Safe Streets and Roads for All program manager within the Federal Highway Administration Office of Safety. His focus is the administration of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, and in particular, supporting recipients in Florida, California, and tribal areas. Darren has significant experience in traffic safety, writing, implementing, and managing grant funds from federal, state, and private funding sources. And before joining the Federal Highway Administration in 2022, Darren actually worked for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration as a highway safety specialist for 4 years. And before the United States Department of Transportation, Darren spent 6 years at the Boys and Girls Club of the Tennessee Valley, a nonprofit focused on underserved youth and families. And after that, Darren served for 26 months in Botswana as a Peace Corps volunteer, working with a local community-based organization to promote education and healthy lifestyles among those affected by HIV. So our next speaker is Ms. Josette Severin. Josette is currently the Multimodal Mobility Projects Administrator for the Broward County Mobility Advancement Program. And in this role, she is the contract administrator and project manager for the Low Stress Multimodal Mobility Transportation System Master Plan, and is on the joint Broward MPO and Broward County Safe Streets and Roads for All Broward Comprehensive Safety Action Plan project team. And Ms. Severin has actually focused her career in the multimodal mobility planning, safety, and traffic injury prevention. And she currently serves as the Vision Zero emphasis area leader for the Florida Bicycle Pedestrian Safety Coalition. And last but not least is Ms. Paola Baez. Paola brings 24 years of experience working for the public and the private sectors at the state and local level. She is a results-oriented, high-energy, hands-on professional with a successful record of accomplishments in different multimodal fields of transportation planning and has many years of experience in managing trail, rail, Americans with Disabilities, Vision Zero, freight, seaport aviation, bicycle pedestrian programs, and other intermodal engineering projects. During her fulfilling planning and engineering career, Paola participated in the review, development, management, and implementation of safety projects countywide, prioritizing equity areas and vulnerable users, embracing Miami-Dade County's Vision Zero's program, bold declaration, and commitment to eliminate fatal and severe traffic injuries by 2040. And the program's accomplishments and catalyzing key partnerships with municipalities is delivering even more results for our community. So we are very, very pleased and excited to have our speakers here with us today. So for today's workshop, I will first be providing a presentation to introduce everyone if you're not familiar with Vision Zero. Then Darren will be providing a presentation on an overview for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant funding program. Then Josette will be covering Broward County's planning grant experience, and Paola will be covering the Miami-Dade County lessons learned for implementation grants. So if you are not familiar, and I will just keep this brief, I will give you all a brief overview of the top 5 things to know about Vision Zero. So Vision Zero, for starters, is really a new way to think about traffic safety. If you're not familiar, Vision Zero actually started in the 1990s in Sweden and then made its way to the United States in the early 2000s. And actually, the city of Fort Lauderdale was the first city in Florida, fun fact, to implement Vision Zero. So it really is a new way to think about traffic safety, and it's about working collaboratively with everyone, law enforcement, people in the health industry, educators, policy makers, really everyone working together to get to that goal of completely eliminating our traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries. So Vision Zero is also about protecting our most vulnerable users and creating our roadway system that people of all ages, all abilities, no matter your ethnicity, no matter your income status, any of that matters, and it's accessible for everyone. So as I mentioned, Vision Zero is about working with multiple sectors to formulate multiple solutions. So law enforcement, educators, professionals in the health industry, policymakers, our planners, our engineers, everyone working together to provide those solutions to drive down and completely eliminate our fatalities and serious injuries. And Vision Zero is really about doing our part. As I mentioned, Vision Zero started in Sweden in the 1990s and then made its way to the United States in the early 2000s. And on the screen there, I have just some of the very many other countries around the world that have already adopted Vision Zero and have seen results. So as you can see there on the screen, Sweden, Netherlands, Australia, and New Zealand have adopted Vision Zero in the early 90s and have seen over 50% reductions in fatalities, all by working together and just having this shared goal that and commitment to completely eliminating fatalities and serious injuries. And locally here, at the national level, we have seen other states and municipalities across the United States adopt Vision Zero and have already seen results. And really, really recently here, the city of Alexandria in Virginia, they adopted Vision Zero in 2017, and they just found out that they experienced zero traffic-related deaths in 2023. So that's amazing, amazing work that they're working on. And the city of Hoboken in New Jersey, they actually adopted Vision Zero back in 2019. And, you know, they haven't experienced a traffic-related fatality since 2017. So that's a really, really long time. And it's amazing work that they're doing. So why Palm Beach County? Well, Palm Beach County has a land area of approximately 1,964 square miles, with a population of increasing population of 1.5 million. And Palm Beach County is actually the second largest and most populous county in Florida by total area. So our population is just going to keep on increasing. And unfortunately, our fatalities are not decreasing at a significant rate. Palm Beach County fatalities, as you can see on the screen there, in Florida, Palm Beach County has one of the highest pedestrian bicycle fatalities statewide. So just to put that into perspective, that we are in a crisis, we are experiencing an epidemic, and we need to work together to do something about it. And we can really tie this back with psychology and human behavior, right? So we all know that we have a brain. And in this brain, according to Mr. Daniel Kahneman, he found that we have two systems within our brain. So system one is the intuitive and instinct side of our brain, and then system two is our rational, more rational side of the brain. So system when you're thinking of system one, think whenever you are tying your shoe, or say you're cooking, or you're doing something that's autopilot that you do every day that you don't really have to be very focused on. And system two requires more effort. It's the slower part of the brain. So think whenever you're trying to solve a math problem, or you're trying something out for the very first time, that is when you will be utilizing system two. And we can actually tie this back with how we drive, right? So when we are first learning how to drive, we're very, very focused. We're hyper focused on what we're doing. We have to look at the mirror. We have to, you know, if you have a manual car, you have to do the shifts. But once we do it every single day, that sort of transfers over to system one and becomes autopilot. So what does that mean for everyone? That means that we're not completely conscious when we are driving. And that's extremely dangerous, as we are making these decisions and you know, mistakes happen. It's good to keep that in mind. So Vision Zero is also about reducing kinetic energy. So as you can see on the slide there, if you're hit by a vehicle traveling at 20 miles per hour, 9 out of 10 pedestrians are able to survive. However, if you're hit by a vehicle traveling at 40 miles per hour, only 1 pedestrian will be able to survive. So it's good to start thinking about these things and what we can do to try and reduce those speeds. The TPA is actually taking initiative and is working on a speed management study that will be identifying the target speeds on all of our high injury roads, and providing recommendations to all of those roadway owners for those identified target speeds. So this really is an opportunity for all of us to work together to try to drive down those posted speed limits, make roadway changes, policy changes, and how we can all work together to completely eliminating our fatalities and serious injuries. So on the screen there, I have some of our Vision Zero communities in Palm Beach County. So currently we have 13 committed municipalities that have adopted a Vision Zero policy. However, in Palm Beach County, we have 39 municipalities. So as you can see, we still have a long way to go. But hopefully you are able to learn more with this workshop and hopefully adopt a Vision Zero policy. So with that being said, let's do another fun quiz. So if you could please take out your mobile device and scan the QR code and answer the question of, is your agency considering adopting a Vision Zero policy?
It's okay to say maybe, but we might be reaching out to you.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, for those that answered 5, we will be reaching out. Okay, so if you have already adopted a Vision Zero policy and you're wondering, well, what's next? So the next step would really be to develop a Vision Zero action plan. And, you know, we are living at a time, thankfully, right now that the federal government has a lot of funding right now for roadway safety improvements. And one of those is called the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, where you are able to fund the development of a Vision Zero action plan and the following implementation for that. So please stick around for the next presentations because Darren from the Federal Highway Administration will be covering a brief overview of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It's not too loud in the room.
Yep, coming through well. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you and hello. That was a great intro. It's a little challenging to give a quick overview of SS4A, so I'm going to do the best I can, but please do check out all the resources and webinars, FAQs we have on the website. Our team goes above and beyond to try to put as much information out there as possible. And sometimes it can be a lot, but I'm hopeful that it'll be helpful to you all. But for a little background, if we could go to the next slide, please. Next slide. There we go. So a little background, I saw some folks may not be familiar with the program. This is year 3 of 5 of the program, so we still have more than $3 billion left until the next reauthorization. The foundation of the SS4A program is built on the development of the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, and then using that action plan to identify projects and strategies to address a community's safety problems. So Valentina really did a great job of introducing this concept. And I always like to say that SS4A is sort of the embodiment of Vision Zero, the safe system approach through a grant program. And it really embraces all of the different types of activities, infrastructural, behavioral, and operational activities. And you can check out our website if you want to look at sort of the national approach to Vision Zero through the National Roadway Safety Strategy. But I won't go into too much detail there, but it'll talk about the safe system approach as well. Next slide, please. So to date, over 1,000 communities have been awarded SS4A funding, improving roadway safety for around 70% of the nation's population. You can see Florida there. There's a whole lot of recipients already, so we're excited about that. And obviously, it's something that we encourage. If you go on our website, you can see who has received SS4A funding near you, and definitely check that out. Now, we get 2 very common questions that I want to address on this slide. One, be honest, what is the application process like? Well, a lot of you can talk to each other about that, but I can say that we've tried our best to streamline the application process to the extent we can. For the planning and demonstration grants, the application narrative is only 2 to 3 pages, a few data points you can take from publicly available data, and the standard government forms. And for implementation applications, we at least don't require a benefit cost analysis, so that can save some time as well. And our intake staff is really great. In the second funding year we just had, SS4A conducted follow-up outreach to 85% of applicants, so about 600 communities, to provide opportunities to address missing application elements and program requirements. So almost no applicant was turned away because of an incomplete application. So we really are trying to do things on our side to streamline as well as make things simpler and help folks get to this funding. Now, what's the likelihood you'll be funded? Well, for planning and demonstration grants, the likelihood is very high. And the likelihood of receiving funding is much higher than the average federal discretionary grant program. We have funded every eligible and complete planning and demonstration grant application over the last 2 years and still had money left over. Now, implementation grant applications are a bit more competitive, but thanks to Congress, we have $780 million available this year for implementation grants, which is significantly more than we've had in previous years. So I wanted to underscore those 2 points. Next slide, please. And so these are the eligible applicants. Really, it's political subdivisions of a state, which we define as a unit of government created by and under the authority of a higher level of government. And state DOTs are not one of the eligible applicants. You'll see they're not here, but we do encourage partnership with them if it makes sense, and complying with those regulations they have, as well as just checking on their plans, making sure you're in coordination, as well as coordinating with other groups. If you're planning on applying, we're not against multi-jurisdictional groups applying. Just one thing to remember, that if you do that, there's only one entity that's going to be dealing with USDOT. And so that would need to be figured out on how you're going to administer the program. Is it going to be just one entity administering all the funds on behalf of the other entities, or is it going to be sort of a sub-recipient setup? We won't get into the weeds there, but I just wanted to mention that. One other thing I wanted to mention here, we do have a 20% match requirement under the program, and we know that is a barrier for some, and unless authorized in statute, federal funds may not be used towards it. So it has to be non-federal funds towards that 20% match, and we don't have much flexibility there. However, match does not have to come from the local community treasury. It just has to be non-federal funds. So we have resources on how to think about in-kind contributions in previous funding rounds. Award recipients received match assistance from state DOTs, foundations, and other outside entities. And I don't think maybe there's any tribal areas in this group, but tribal transportation program funds can be used as match, which was new this year. Next slide, please. So I know there's a lot going on in this slide, but it is an important one. On the left side, you can see all of the different activities that SS4A can fund. Now, on the right side, you can see how those activities are captured between the two types of grants that one can apply for. So in the middle, you see the planning and demonstration grants. That's if you're developing a brand new action plan, or you're trying to add bells and whistles to your existing action plan. Maybe we'll go through some examples of that in a minute. Or you're carrying out demonstration activities in support of an action plan. Those can all be funded under the planning and demonstration grant category. Now, on the implementation grant side, this is when you've already got an action plan and you're ready to carry out those projects and strategies. Maybe it's doing preliminary engineering, design, all the things to eventually carry out the projects and strategies. Those can only be funded under an implementation grant. But you'll also note that even if you're applying for an implementation grant, you can also bundle in supplemental planning and demonstration activities to help support your existing action plan. As we know, they're living and breathing documents, and that's something that we do encourage. Next slide, please. So here are some examples of planning and demonstration activities. So as I said, on the far left side, you can see the development of a new action plan. Then you can see in the middle here what we call supplemental planning activities. Now, examples of this may be a speed management plan. I know you just mentioned that Palm Beach TPA is working on that. ADA transition plans, lighting plans. There's a whole host of different examples of this, roadway safety audits. Then you can see on the right side the demonstration activities. So these are typically, or they're supposed to be temporary in nature and meant to test changes that will advance safety before you spend millions of dollars on the projects and strategies in your action plan. Ultimately, they need to tie back to your action plan and inform it. And these can be all kinds of different activities. You see them listed here. They could be quick builds, pilot programs for behavioral or operational activities. There's a ton of examples, lots of examples on our website. But in the end, they just need to be temporary in nature, evaluated and informing the action plan. And we get a lot of questions about this subject, so I'm happy to answer that in the Q&A. Next slide, please. And so implementation grants, as I said, are when you're ready to carry out what's in your action plan. So it could be a Vision Zero plan, a local road safety plan. And one thing to note new this year, and if you're considering this, you only have a short time window for this. We are offering pre-application reviews of action plans. So there's certain requirements your action plan has to meet in order to apply for an implementation grant. And there's a checklist on our website. It's called the self-certification checklist. And what you can do is submit your existing action plans with the checklist and say, hey, does our action plan meet the requirements to apply for an implementation grant? And if you submit that before April 17th, they will come back to you and either say, yes, we encourage you to apply for an implementation grant, or they'll say, no, here's where your action plan is missing certain elements, and we encourage you to apply for a planning and demonstration grant. So that's a new flexibility under this notice of funding opportunity. But like I said, that will be April 17th. If you just Google SS4A pre-application, it should pop up, but obviously we can share links after the presentation. But going back to what implementation grants are, they're more permanent in nature, and the projects and strategies identified in the action plan actually being carried out. Next slide, please. So you can see there are 3 separate application deadlines for planning and demonstration grants. You can see one is at 5 o'clock today. So if you missed that one, there's another opportunity to apply for planning and demonstration in May and as well in August. And one thing to note here, though, implementation grants, there's only one deadline, and that is May 16th at 5 p.m. And so if you happen to not get funding for planning and demonstration grants, you may reapply. I would say also, if you're applying for implementation, there's not going to be an opportunity most likely for you to be able to reapply for planning and demonstration. So if you're interested in both implementation and planning and demonstration activities, you might consider bundling those together, as I mentioned earlier. But that was a very quick and dirty overview, but I hope that was helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I will pass it back to you, Valentina, for next speaker.
I think, yeah, we want to go to the next slide. I think we have a follow-up question. Another quiz. So if you could please take out your mobile device.
This one is timed, so make sure you're ready to go. All right, let's do it.
All right, so go back. Would your agency consider a joint application with neighboring agencies to strengthen your application? Yes or no? All right, and one more. In one word, what is keeping your agency from pursuing Safe Streets and Roads for All funding?
C. Nada, which is a great answer. We are applying duration, resources, administrative red tape, staffing, eligibility. That's an interesting one. I think we'll have a little conversation about that. Still coming in. Nice little word cloud we got. Okay, good. We got the right people in the room. Next. Okay, so we're a little short on time, so I'm going to ask that we hold questions towards the end so we can get our speakers through, and then we'll have the roundtable Q&A discussion kind of journey together. So thank you. Oh, microphone. Microphone, can you push the little button? There you go.
All right, I'll do that again. Good morning, everyone. I'm Josette Severin. I'm the Multimodal Projects Administrator with Broward County. And I'm here to talk to you about the joint application process that we went through, Broward County and the Broward MPO, in going after our Safe Streets for All Action Plan grant. So I'm going to quickly give you a brief timeline and then talk about the additional processes that we went through. So to start off with, the notice of funding opportunity was released in May of 2022. By August of 2022, we gathered with the Broward MPO and started doing these bi-weekly coordination meetings to get our application together. The application closed September 15th of 2022. We received word that we had the award announcement for January 31st of 2023. And then by July of 2023, we executed the grant agreement with the Federal Highway Administration. And I might refer to this as NTP, but I want to make sure that you all understand that there are two NTPs that I'll be talking about in this discussion. NTP being FHWA grant agreement, and then there will be a second NTP where we've done our solicitation, our RFP process, and we've brought on our consultants. So just want to make that clear. So our action plan grant is going to have a project duration of 18 months. So I'll go through our process. So for application development, like I mentioned, we did bi-weekly coordination meetings with the Broward MPO starting August 10th, and we continued that through the notice to proceed and the kickoff meeting with our consultant team. Through this process, what we really wanted to focus on was identifying our needs. So we identified these needs at a technical level, but we also identified our needs at the leadership level. And when I'm talking about the leadership level, I'm really talking about match. So then I'll get into the match development process that we went through. As well, we had this data analysis and review process that we went through, our mapping, our identifying some of our focus areas, identifying our needs through data. And we had this review process both with the Broward MPO and Broward County, and making sure that we were both on the same page in terms of what we've been identifying. From there, the Broward MPO led the effort to obtain municipal letters of support from all of the municipalities within Broward County. They were successful in receiving those. And then additionally, they received letters of support from our state representatives. And all of this was packaged into our application and submitted on the due date. Finally, what we did was reviewing all of the data, reviewing all of our needs, looking at all of our match. We developed and finalized our narrative language. So I'm going to talk to you about our matching process. So what we went through was looking at the notice of funding opportunity. We looked at the guidelines and we were trying to figure out, okay, what projects do we, Broward County, have in the pipeline that would be able to serve as match. And when I'm talking about match, I'm talking about in-kind match. And so we looked at different planning projects and studies that we had in those pipelines. And what we found were we had 2 surtax funded projects. So this is a transportation surtax that Broward County has. It's called the Mobility Advancement Program. And we had 1 constitutional gas tax project that we were going to use as leverage for the in-kind match. And when we did this analysis, we wanted to make sure that we were a bit over the $1.25 million match that we had as a requirement, because for the action plan grant, we did go for the full 5 million. So when it comes down to talking about NTP matters, this is really talking about when we sign the agreement with FHWA and when we can start saying that these 3 projects, the intersection studies, the near miss study, and the low stress multimodal mobility master plan, when are those projects starting? Have they started already? And if they have started already, how much money do we forecast spending from the moment of the agreement through the life of the project? Because like I said, we want to make sure that at minimum we have that $1.25 million match. So as part of that, what we also considered is, okay, we can track our labor. So for labor, what we were really doing is tracking time and a little bit detail of what our activities were that we were working on. And this is really something that we started tracking as an as needed basis, just in case there is additional money that we would need in terms of matching for in-kind. So I was asked to give a little bit of a highlight of the low stress multimodal mobility master plan. This is the project that I'm the contract administrator and project manager on. And I'm just going to highlight some key analyses in here that I think are probably unique to South Florida. We conducted a county-wide level of traffic stress analysis. We use the FDOT quality level of service flow charts for both bicycle and pedestrian. So we went ahead and we did that. And so we have both the bicycle and pedestrian level of traffic stress analysis as 2 separate maps that we identified and reviewed. And then what we did additionally to that is we combined that analysis with an accessibility analysis. And the accessibility analysis was really prioritizing some key destinations that we wanted to make sure that people could get to. And that included things like jobs, schools, grocery stores, transit stops, so on and so forth, because these are the things that are really going to have that major impact on quality of life. And it's really going to be able to enhance people's mobility. And the focus for our project was really a destinations focused project. It's utilitarian in nature, not recreational. So we wanted to make sure that we could get people to places that they need to go. Moving on, so as part of these analyses, what we reviewed and we looked at program and committed funding for projects in the future. And what we found was our low stress network would be composed of about 200 projects. And that's something that we're reviewing right now with our stakeholders and our partners, and hopefully we'll be able to solidify what that final low stress network looks like. It's going to be a spine network, so it's not going to be every road, but it's a spine network to get people to most places that they need to go. And ideally, we would have a catchment areas of a half mile. So everybody would be hopefully within a half mile of a low stress spine network. And that's the goal for that. Our final master plan will include policy. As part of this, what we're looking to also develop is a multimodal quality of service analysis that we can put forward that is context-based. So following similar context classifications as FDOT, we really want to make sure that we're setting policy and guidelines that are easy to implement and clear. So pre-award, when I'm talking about pre-award, I'm really talking about the grant award announcement to the consultant NTP. So this is before we get the consultant on board. And so for our pre-award milestones, what we really focused on were our agreements, So our agreement with FHWA and our agreements between the Broward MPO and Broward County. Then from there, I'll talk about the preparation for our solicitation, some of the requirements that we had, the solicitation webinar that we held, that was hosted by the Broward MPO, the marketing meetings, and we worked together on developing a scope of work, which is available on the Broward MPO website if you'd like to see that. So for the agreements, I mentioned there are 2 agreements that we did. The FHWA agreement was really more of a review this agreement and sign. We executed that July 5th of 2023. Then really we're in a joint application process. We wanted to make sure that we had a clear understanding of what both parties are expected to accomplish. So between the Broward MPO and Broward County, we drafted a memorandum of understanding. And what we did here is we outlined our roles and our responsibilities, in addition to some standard agreement language that would follow as other sections of this. But we outlined the partner roles. As part of the agreement with FHWA, we needed to be able to establish oversight and guidance. So how are we going to agree to do that together? Funding, the progress reports, data, review and comments, and then the public involvement process. So this was all part of our memorandum of understanding that we drafted together, and it was key to be able to move forward. And so this agreement was executed by the Broward MPO on July 13th of 2023, and the Broward County executed it on August 22nd of 2023. So the next step for us was the solicitation workshop. So this solicitation workshop was the brainchild of the Broward MPO. They recorded it and posted it and hosted it. And so that was held July 27th of 2023. We were able to get 200 consultants nationally to register. And one of the strategies that the Broward MPO used to get people to be very interested in our project and applying to the solicitation was to reach out to some national and local chapters of key organizations. And those would be, I'm just going to name a few: NACDO, AMPO, ITE, and then we used some of the solicitation lists that the FDOT, Broward County, and the Broward MPO had. And this meeting really covered our existing conditions, what is the Safe Streets for All grant, and the project description and the procurement schedule that we had. So as part of this, so we had the solicitation webinar, then we allowed people to sign up for these marketing meetings. And these marketing meetings were really intended for people to already have an idea who was going to be on their team. And they met with us. We allowed them to schedule these meetings from July 31st to August 11th. Calendly was a scheduling process tool that we used to allow people to sign up. And each group got 30 minutes to apply. It was mostly a process of them asking us questions, but we did brief introductions in the beginning. And there is a 1-page summary that the Broward MPO had posted, scope summary that they posted to their website. So that was something that they were supposed to reference in addition to having the marketing meetings and set up their questions. So our request for proposals was scheduled. The Broward MPO led that process. And the selection committee was made up of both Broward MPO and county representatives. Through that process, we did a short listing, and then there was final selection where we did presentations. So for the post-award process, so this is the consultants selected, and they've been given their NTP to get started. So we had 29 deliverables for this process. And let's see. And as I mentioned before, there's an oversight and guidance committee. So we allowed an application process. The Broward MPO set up a survey 123 to solicit interest to serve both on the oversight committee and the technical working group. And you could sort of check off which one you were interested in. And so what we were really looking for and what the Broward MPO really wanted to see was that we'd have representation from different types of agencies. So as you see for the oversight committee, they were interested in getting some of the folks from the TAC, so their technical advisory committee, their citizens advisory committee. We were really looking to get health agencies involved and some nonprofits, for example. And so those were some of the folks that we were looking at to be able to join our oversight committee. And then the technical working group, more so FDOT, county, public health agencies, law enforcement. We do have a member that's from the Memorial Healthcare System that is serving on our technical working group committee and is part of their Safety Town and different Safe Kids initiatives. So that's a great partnership there and a really great feedback from the health sector that you don't always see in transportation projects. So I was asked to talk a little bit about our high injury network. So the reason why we are developing a new high injury network, the Broward MPO originally looked at any area with deadly and serious injury crashes, which I may also call the killed and severely injured crashes, so KSI. But they accounted for 100% of their crashes. And what we really wanted to do was focus on the trends and the major corridors. So while we're using a modified equivalent property damage only method, that is our goal. Our goal is to be able to come through and identify the trends and identify the major corridors to be able to develop that high injury network. So when it comes to invoicing, the Broward MPO is leading this effort. They've generated a template that they're using. These are submitted monthly, and their request, the MPO requests reimbursements monthly. And in terms of Broward County, so for our matching projects, what we've done is we've identified a finance person within our organization that we submit all of our invoicing to, and he compiles a sheet to share to the Broward MPO, and they include that in their invoicing and submissions to the FHWA to report the in-kind match. So I want to be able to acknowledge all the folks that were part of the SS4A development team and the folks that are serving on the team now. So from the Broward MPO, James Cromar is the project manager. Fazil Qureshi is the deputy project manager. Andrew Riddle and Mark Plass were also part of the development and ongoing for from the Broward MPO side. And then from the Broward County side, Tony Huey, our deputy director of our public works, is the project manager. Mintong Lee here is our assistant project manager. He is also the project manager for the near miss study that's serving as match. Gretchen Cassini, who is our mobility advancement program administrator. Manuel Fontan is the PM for our intersection studies project that is serving as match. Richard Tornice, myself, and I believe there is a slide that I might have skipped over. So I had a question from Brian about why did the Broward MPO not use a general planning consultant? And the reason for that, let me see if I can go back to it. The reason for that was that there are limits to how much money that can be spent within a GPC contract. And I don't know these off the top of my head, but I think it was somewhere about 1.5 to 2 million. And then there's also a maximum like lifetime of a contract that you can receive as well. So the 1.5 to 2 million is in a single year. And then there's also a lifetime one. So why didn't we use leverage a GPC contract? The answer is, well, we couldn't. So we went through the solicitation process. That did not bar any of the folks that are GPCs to apply. So for example, Kittleson and Associates was one of the selected, one of the consultants that was part of the final selection panel, I guess you could say. They're also a GPC. So if you're a GPC, you can still apply for the solicitation. It doesn't work against you. You just can't leverage the GPC contract to be able to do it. I hope that answers your question. So I'll open up to questions, or we can move on to Paula.
I think we will hold questions until the end for after Paola's presentation. So we do have one other quick little fun quiz for you all. So if you could please take out your mobile devices. And the question is, for planning grants, who should be involved in the development of action plans to create an effective, comprehensive safety plan? Okay, so who should be involved? Police departments, emergency response. I hope we're all putting all of the above on there. All right, thank you all. Now we will transition to Paola's presentation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy and excited to talk to you about our efforts for the Vision Zero plan. As many of you may know, Florida is #2 in the Dangerous by Design in ranking by the Smart Grow America. So that's why DTPW, the Department of Transportation and Public Works for Miami-Dade County, decided to take a proactive role on this. You know, the responsibility is shared. Humans are vulnerable. Okay, we have no no opportunity against a vehicle, and we have to understand that the responsibility is shared. So safety must be proactive. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit of our program, how we evolved to what it is today, and also going to tell you about our Vision Zero action plan that is just been published. You can find it on our website, and we are a little bit farther in the game from Broward. We already developed our action plan. And then, of course, the most important thing for all, how we were successful on getting the Safe Street for All grant for implementation funding. Yeah, so in 2022, there were 3,536 fatalities due to motor accidents, from which 9% were in Miami-Dade County, in Florida, which 9% were in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County is the most dangerous city by car accidents. We had in 2021, 36,903 accidents and 339 serious injuries resulted from that and 117 fatalities. So we had to recognize that a lot of these, you know, could have been preventable. So we have to do, as a transportation agency, we have the responsibility to educate the public and to do something with the roads to make it safer. So our plan has focusing on creating safe street, no matter the mode of transportation, no matter the age, no matter if it's a grandpa, you know, walking to the bodega, or if it's a kid riding their bike, you know, everybody has to be safe, or somebody going to school or to work. So what are the steps that we took? Miami County started in 2016 with creating a complete street design guideline. And in 2018, the TPO did the first Vision Zero plan. From that, I call that phase 1, right? Phase 1 of our efforts. From that, we picked 24 locations that are are currently being put on the ground. That was record. You know, we said, you know, these are some of the worst locations that we know for experience from our high crash analysis. We need to put these things on the ground. And we were able to find some funding from the People Transportation Plan to to do this and to also develop what we call the 2018, the 2021 Miami-Dade County Framework Plan. What the framework plan gave us, when we did an analysis of the entire Miami-Dade County, but what it gave us is 2,000 plus high injury locations. So how do we tackle 2,000 plus locations, right? And reach Vision Zero by 2040, which is our goal. So we decided to concentrate in the top 100. Top 100 locations, concentrating in vulnerable road users, where accidents were happening for vulnerable users, and highlighting equity areas and access to transit. That was our goal. So those top 100 locations, we look at them no matter whose jurisdiction it was. And I think that was important for our success later on in the program. We didn't care if it was a municipal road or if it was a DOT road. We look at the top 100 most dangerous in Miami-Dade County, because nobody cares, right? When they're crossing a roadway, whose road it is, you know? The accidents will happen in any of them. So we have to make it safe throughout our network. So from then, we did a lot of outreach events. 70% of our outreach events have been in equity areas, in disadvantaged communities. We've done over 90 outreach events. That map shows you all the different events that we've done. And I think that was the map like 3 months ago. We've done a lot more, and we continue to. And before we submit our application, we make sure that we have been all over our community collecting information. If you scan the QR code down there, you'll find a survey that we give up when we go out there to do our community outreach. And we are trying to do our community outreach more geared to each area. We've been working with our municipalities to try to do that educational campaign geared to that area. So we talk about the projects that we are implementing in that area. We have done an analysis, which I'll show you later with our action plan. We have identified the main causes of crashes in the different areas. So when we go and educate people, we concentrate, okay, let's say in Hialeah, there's a lot of aging community, you know, and the crashes are high percentage involves the aging community. So we focus our educational campaign on that. And there's also a map that you'll see in our website, a link if you go in there, and it shows you, it's called Social Pinpoint, and people can go and put in their input in different specific locations. It works kind of like Facebook, you know, that you can put a comment and more people can like it and like it and like it. And they can add pictures. So when we're actually developing our countermeasures, we open those maps because there's a lot of near misses. The data can only tell us so much, right? But we don't know. Only the people that are there every day seeing what's going on, they know what needs to be done in that area. So we want to hear from them. In our educational campaign, we concentrate a lot on that. And then what is our, let me see my notes on the next page. a lot of notes. Okay, so our action plan. Our big effort last year was to concentrate in our action plan. So like I say, our phase 1 was those first 24 TPO projects. Our phase 2 for tackling and achieving Vision Zero was those top 100 locations. But we weren't ready to be designated as a Miami. We wanted to designate Miami-Dade County as a Vision Zero county and become part of the national network. So for that, we needed to develop a high injury network because we had high injury locations. If you guys remember, I mentioned those 2,000 plus were high injury locations. They were not a specific network. So for us to become part of the national network, we had to develop that. And we wanted to refine our findings from the framework plan, concentrating, prioritizing vulnerable road users and equity area, and prioritizing data, right? Because a lot of the times, we're guilty that there's certain priorities, and sometimes we prioritize a project over another one, right? But in this case, we're prioritizing safety. So that has become our goal for Miami-Dade County. And another big important thing that this action plan is giving us is key action commitments and key performance indicators. So our high injury network, it's kind of overwhelming, this slide, but it's the 4 corridors that account for approximately 31% of all crashes in Miami-Dade County. And 62% of this high injury network is within equity areas. And that is our developed high injury network. So what I mentioned is our key action items and our key performance indicators. Like, how do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we measure our progress, right? How do we measure what we need to tweak, what we need to fix, right? Unless we are constantly monitoring what we're doing. And how do we also show commitment as an agency? So we wanted to make sure that our Vision Zero action plan included key action commitments that had that were policy and program-driven strategies to advance our Vision Zero plan, right? And we organized these key action commitments and key performance indicators in 5 groups: enhance city processes and collaboration. This is so important for us to have these communications between the county and the municipalities, help the municipalities work with each other as well. A lot of times, we cross lines, and sometimes we have a facility that ends in a way in one, and then the next municipality starts, and then there's another type of facility. The protection may have ended. So how do we create that continuous network, safe network that protects all vulnerable road users, right? So working with the municipalities has been key. And during the development of our action plan, we had specific interviews with each municipality, and we offer the municipalities to include their priority locations in our action plan. Why do we did that? Because that way, each municipality could grab our action plan and adopt it. And you could ask for the SS4A, in this case, you could go straight and ask for implementation funding based on by adopting our action plan. So we wanted to give that extra leg to our municipalities. Another important thing that we have a specific action commitments and performance indicators is on building safer streets for everyone, creating safer speeds, promote a culture of safety, education is so important. Being out there in the community, the responsibility is shared. We're all drivers. We are transportation professionals, but we're also drivers. We're also parents. We're also brothers, sisters. I'm sure a lot of us may have lost, people we know by high crash accidents. So it's important that we all take responsibility on that. And of course, another important thing for us was improve our data to be transparent. We want the public to be aware of how we are progressing. Where is it that we're leading? And I'll tell you about a couple of grant opportunities later that are going to help us be more transparent with our data and have this data available for the municipalities as well as for the public. So this is just a sample of what we have in our action plan. We have a section at the end that is specific for each municipality. We have the municipal information. We have the causes, the main causes, where it's aggressive driving, alcohol-related, drug-related, speeding, aging community, teenage drivers, what is causing the accidents in those specific municipalities. And as you can see, everything that you see in red is where that municipality in that group has higher percentages than the average in Miami-Dade County. So talking about our successes, and so we're so excited to see that all this big effort has paid off. We've been very, very successful this year. We got the Safe Street for All implementation money, $16.2 million for a total project cost of $20.4 million. I think it's something like that. But our program, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more later, it has a lot of different components. So it's a very complex application. It has 24 implementation projects, 6 supplemental planning projects, 9 demonstration projects, and it was a joint application with a couple of municipalities, City of Hialeah and Miami Beach, and of course with the TPO. And that's why when they ask that question, whether you're willing to join application and efforts, it's so important. It helps a lot. We want to show, remember, South Florida is competing for this funding nationally. Okay, so we want to show unity. We want to show that all of us have the same vision. And with all the different transportation agencies, right? Not just the municipalities, but the county, the TPOs, we're all on the same page about creating a safer environment, and we all have the same priorities for our community. Another one which is another opportunity that maybe you guys could start with was the Road to Zero grant. We got $150,000 last year. These are small pilot projects that really zero matching, important, zero matching, okay? And it's really a good opportunity to start with your program, to build some pilots. So what we're doing is we're doing a community liaison pilot program, and we're also doing the Vision Zero data dashboard, which I'll tell you a little bit more on what those entitle. So you get an idea what type of projects you can apply for. We also got money for 2 implementation projects, zero matching as well, from the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And we also got community project funding, congressional earmark in the value of $3 million from Congressman Diaz-Balart for one specific location. And we put in 7 and we got 1, you know. This year we put back 3, 4 more. You know, and that's what we're doing, you know, we keep on going. And something very important is, like, if you don't get it the first time, don't give up. Have a briefing with USDOT, with the Road to Zero, the NSC, you know, have a briefing and discuss what is it that you could do better the next time. Because the first time around, we didn't win the Safety for All. And we only went for 5 million. The second time around, we got 16.2. So, so yeah. So we were a lot more ready to, but yeah. But the debriefing that we had with them was very useful. And let me see. Okay, I have skipped a lot on my notes. Okay, so like I said, last year we were lucky enough to get the Road to Zero grant. And our application had 2 components. One was this dashboard. We're trying to, as part of our key action commitments and key performance indicators, we want to be transparent. We want to have this data available to our community, this data available to the municipalities. So we're trying to create this tool that displays all the data metrics, that kind of set benchmarks and metrics and shows our progress, so that the community knows exactly where our projects are coming, you know, how we have improved, how we're measuring our success, what changes are we planning on doing. So this information will be kind of like the signal for, but more specific for our area, and with a lot more information. And hopefully, it will include also some, we've done a lot of coalitions with a couple of hospitals, Jackson as well as Baptist, and we're working with different neighborhoods to try to get more information on near misses, information from trauma centers that may not be accounted in a police report, which is where we get our information from Signal 4. So that is one of the components for the Road to Zero grant. There's $150,000. So this component was like 70,000, and the other money we're using for the community liaison pilot project. And why did we decided to do this? Because we realized a lot of the times that people have lost some trust on transportation agencies. Oh, you say this is needed, but we have to wait 3 years for you to put something on the ground, or but sometimes they trust more that message when it comes from their churches, from the local hospital. For example, Baptist Hospital in the West Kendall area is an incorporated Miami-Dade County. So they have created their own coalition because they don't have a municipality to represent them or anything like that. So Baptist Hospital put together all the different neighborhoods, the associations, and they have created their safety coalition. And we're working together now with the hospital to try to send that message, send that education message, and work with them and get feedback from those specific areas based on what they want to see in their neighborhood and what they feel that is their highest priority and their need. So that's our focus educational campaign. And then talking about our actual grant, the Safe Street for All. So like I mentioned, it was 24 implementation projects. These were all based on our top 100. So from those top 100, I forgot to mention that 55 of those were municipal and county roads, and 45 of those were DOT roads. So we did traffic analysis of those top 100. We gave that traffic analysis information to DOT for their 45. So DOT is working in partnership with us. We're holding every 3 months meeting to see where they are in implementing their projects. And the county took over the municipal and county roads. So these 24 projects are those that we decided to federalize and include in this grant application for the Safe Street for All, for the first round of Safe Street for All. And I want to highlight on this one too, that like I said, we were successful, but we also had a lot of failures. We applied for SIGPIC, we applied for TRIP funding, we applied the first time around for the SS for All. And like I said, the important thing I think that made us this time successful was that we look at the county as a whole. We do not, the federal government does not want to see competing applications from the same area, because it shows that everybody has different priorities. We have to be united. And another thing that was important was our co-application with the TPO, like I said, and a couple of municipalities. So another component was demonstration and supplemental planning projects. So we have 8 demonstration projects, 5 supplemental planning. And what we're doing here is on the first one that you see there, we're doing a research study of unreported crashes with Walk Safe, Bike Safe. They're getting all the information from Jackson Hospital, and they're giving us all those near misses, all that information that comes to the trauma center that may not be part of a police report that goes into Signal 4, which is where we're getting our data. We're doing some pilot projects using CICLA CPR systems and other technologies that are out there. And we're also doing a video safety analysis pilot project, which is looking at 5 high injury locations in Miami-Dade County, and it's gonna give us information, like it's gonna be constantly monitoring those 5 locations. And then we're also doing the safest driver contest. This has been used by insurance companies to lower your insurance rates. I don't know if you heard of it, but they put an application in your phone, and it catches when you're braking hard, when you're using your phone while driving, where you're distracted. It catches all those things, and it kind of gets some behaviors, and then and in which areas the behaviors are happening, right? And we're concentrating on information that is on a high injury network, so that we can develop better countermeasures and have better education plans for the high injury network. So like you see, it's like a lot of different components that we included in our application. So now we have to deliver, right? That's gonna be a little hard, but we are, we're working. in here in the demonstration projects, we included road safety audits that actually the TPO is going to be doing that part of it. And what they mentioned about in kind and the TPO and the couple of municipalities that are participating with us, they're also contributing to part of the funding as well. And we are also, all these agencies are also contributing a lot in kind. So that's something that is very doable. So something too that I think help us a lot with finding matching funds for Miami-Dade County is, I don't know if you heard, but Miami County has shifted from road impact fees into mobility impact fees. Okay, road impact fees is the funding that they collect when there's new development. And they say, okay, your building is bringing this many cars and is causing these, problems to our transportation system. So you gotta pay certain fees so that we can increase capacity in this transportation system to handle, the impact that your building is doing. Before, we could only use that money for capacity improvement on roadways. Now we have shifted it into the mobility impact fees. Mobility impact fees now has a specific bucket for bicycle and pedestrian projects and a specific bucket for transit projects. And we still have the money, of course, for roadway improvements. So this gives us a lot of matching funding specific for this type for implementation projects. Because of course, the money is not so much with the 2,000 plus locations that we have, right? But at least we can go and ask for these federal grants and have the matching funding to provide for it. And then of course, we also have the surtax, the People Transportation Plan that help us with the initial push for this. So those are some ideas on finding, maybe switching the process in your county, look into that. And because really we have to build we cannot build any more double deckers and more roads. We design for level E, and we have to think that we have to provide better other modes of transportation that can really be considered safe and reliable modes of transportation, like transit and bike and ped, that really connect, because sometimes we go into a bicycle lane, we feel safe, and then it ends, and then you're like stuck in the middle of maybe a dangerous area. So some things to think about, and work with your transit agencies, to try to connect to the transit within your municipalities. There's a lot of, freebies and things that you can implement to provide that first and last mile connection. And very important for our application, we have to make sure that we select locations. If it's going to be for implementation funding, you need to select locations that are implementation ready. Okay, that you have at least 30% plans, you have developed countermeasures and all that. And in your implementation, let's say that your TPA or your county has some kind of action plan, something that can be considered and qualify as an action plan, right? It may, like you heard from the federal government today, it does not have to be a formal action plan like the one we have. It could be a study, it could be a master plan that you can take it to them and they can certify you. And let's say your municipality has a couple of projects, you can apply for implementation funding for those couple of projects and apply for supplemental planning to create your own action plan. So that could be, an idea that you guys can get started. But also another thing that I want to highlight is make sure that the projects that you're federal licensed, it makes sense to federalize. Like for Stop 55, not all of them make sense to federalize. There were maybe smaller projects, less money, or had certain constraints that were not going to allow us to deliver within the 5 years that we have to deliver all these projects. So something very important to think about if you're going to go for these grants. And I'm going to wrap it up because we're probably running out of time. Just want to highlight that NACTO, the National Association of City Transportation Officials, is coming to Miami, May 7 to May 10. Please, please, please consider participating. We want to see South Florida represented there. We're so lucky to have such big conference, such an important conference. It's over 2,000 officials, and over 70% is officials. It's not a marketing type of conference. It's a place to make coalitions, to create relationships with your neighborhood cities, to learn what the other cities have done. I had the opportunity to go last year in Denver because we were competing to try to get, Miami County had to apply and go through a lot of hurdles for them to accept to come here. So it's wonderful to have it here. And I don't know, it's the first time ever that is in Southeast Florida. So in the Southeast area of the country that this conference is taking place. So please take the opportunity to go. There's a lot of opportunities to help us out with workshops. I think you guys are helping us out with the regional day because on Friday is the regional day. So we're taking them to Broward and all the way to Palm Beach. There's gonna be over 40 workshops, opportunities, multiple workshops. And we encourage you to please attend. And if you guys are interested in attending, we've been negotiating with NACTO as the host agency to try to see if we can extend our host rate, which is $750 to our neighborhood municipalities, and we want to include all of you. So I can send them a survey that we're trying to, because they told me, okay, find out, Paola, how many they are. And then we'll see if there may be some scholarship opportunities. There may be some day passes available. So consider please participating. And I'm gonna share with you a survey, and if you can respond to me, I can give NACTO the list and they can get an idea of how many people, what municipalities will be interested, and maybe they cannot afford the steep price because I know it's an expensive conference. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paola, Darren, and Josette for your presentations. This was very, very informative. Thank you. So now we will take questions from the audience that is here in person. And then if there are no more questions from the audience in person, then we will take the virtual questions.
Who wants to go first? All right.
Jean, I'm sorry, could you please? Thank you.
I have a couple questions. What's a near miss study?
So I'll be happy to invite Min Tong Lee to talk about his near miss study since he's the project manager.
Good morning. Min Tong Lee, Broward County Traffic Engineering Division. I'm the project manager of the near miss study.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
Do I need to say that again?
Sure, if you could. Yeah, online people.
Okay. Min Tong Lee, Broward County Traffic Engineering Division. I'm the project manager of the near miss study. Near miss crash that does not really happen. So it usually does not cause damage or injuries, but it has potential to do so. So the intention is to address the risk at the intersection with available technology. What Broward County is doing is utilizing fisheye camera images and analyze those fisheye camera to identify near miss. The critical things that we learned up to this point is that most of the commercialized tool that you can acquire at this point a little bit overestimate near misses. So the process or the algorithm we managed to adopt can filter out most of the false positive and really narrow down to the critical near misses that such as traffic engineering division like us can focus on and develop solutions. And a key component that we are going to conduct pretty soon, and in fact right now, is to do a before and after assessment on solutions that we may be able to deploy within a short time frame to a signalized intersection and see how effective those solution is going to be.
So just to add on to that, so with Vision Zero, one of the goals is to prevent deadly and serious injury crashes from happening. So a project like this near miss study is looking at the post encroachment time of, say, either vehicle to vehicle vehicle to pedestrian, vehicle to bicycle. And it's looking at that amount of time that that miss occurred. And the idea is that when we go into a phase where we're looking at before and after implementation, we can better analyze what measures are most effective. And if there are intersections that have very similar components to the intersections that you're studying, you could potentially look at those other intersections that share characteristics and proactively do changes. And so that's sort of how this ties in, is we're really identifying some data on what near misses really look like. Are there differences between modes that have conflict? And what are the actions that we can take that will be most effective? And so that's something that kind of will be developed over time.
No, that's a great idea. And it seems like AI could probably monitor some of the cameras and help you with some of the data.
Yeah, it's the algorithm. The algorithm incorporate AI technology because you need to detect and track object entering into intersection, and it depends on the shape and the looks. The algorithm able to differentiate pedestrian versus regular vehicles, or if it's a truck. So.
Any other questions? Jean?
Okay, I understand that you get a planning grant to get your action plan done, and until you have your action plan, you're not allowed to apply for implementation study, but the implementation needs 30% plans. As part of your initial grant application, can you design part of the project up to 30% before, and then apply for, can that money help fund design?
So I will just clarify, and Darren, please let me know if this is correct or not, but I believe you are able to apply for the implementation funds, even if you already applied for the planning grant and it's currently underway. I think it depends on when you are scheduled to finish your planning document or your planning action plan. Darren, is that right?
Sort of. Yeah. So number one, unfortunately, design costs are not an eligible use of the planning and demonstration activities. So those funds cannot be used towards those sort of preliminary engineering and those sort of design aspects of a permanent implementation project. Now, implementation grants, you can fund potential locations that are not designed yet. It's just that you've identified them in your action plan. There may not be any design. I'm not an engineer, but I'm not there doesn't necessarily have to be concept designs. Now, sometimes that can be helpful in terms of clarity and understanding what's going to be done in these different places. But they don't necessarily have to. They just have to be identified in terms of the projects and strategies, the countermeasures that you plan to use generally. So sometimes it's not always fleshed out in the implementation grant application. Now, Miami-Dade's I actually reviewed, and they did a great job, obviously, and they went through all the different locations and they chose to use ones that were further along and that maybe provided some clarity, but it's not necessarily required that those locations have to be at 30% design in order to be in their grant application for implementation. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah.
Thank you. Fadi?
Yeah, question for Darren. Just to clarify, my understanding was we can apply for demonstration project where we're doing, the action plan, but we have to complete the action plan before we can apply for the implementation. Could you specify exactly at what point can we apply for implementation if we are in the process of developing an action plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're correct. You absolutely, even though if you're a current SS4A recipient working on your action plan, you can absolutely apply again for demonstration activities or supplemental planning activities to inform your already developing action plan. But yes, your action plan is only ready for an implementation grant when it meets the criteria that's in the self-certification worksheet. So once again, I can share links, but Google SS4A self-certification worksheet and it'll pop up, and you essentially take that worksheet and you take your action plan and you look yourself and say, do we meet these requirements within? And technically you don't have to meet all of them. You'll have to look closer at the worksheet. But at that point is when you would decide we're ready to apply for an implementation grant, in terms of your action plan being ready for that. And in most cases, that would probably be when you've already completed your current action plan grant or your planning grant, as many of you already have. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, just one more clarification. I think one of the criteria for an action plan, I mean, for this form to go through is to have the action plans adopted, which means technically you have to finish it before you can adopt it.
Yeah, if you look closely at that worksheet, there are certain ones that are a requirement, and then there are certain ones where you have to at least satisfy, 3 of them. And I believe the one that you're referring to is one of the ones that if you happen to satisfy other aspects, you might be able to move it forward. And that's another thing is if you're on the fence right now and you're actually considering for this NOFO, you might consider what I mentioned earlier, the pre-application review, where if you submit before April 17th, your action plan alongside this worksheet, you can get a clear determination from our Office of the Secretary who does intake for these applications, and they'll give you a detailed response in where you might be lacking, or they may confirm that you're good to go. So I think that's something to consider as well.
Thank you.
It looks like we have one other question. Go ahead.
This is for Paola, and thank you for attacking the lack of uniformity in crash reporting and things that aren't reported. Are you going to come up with a model crash sheet that other communities can use, both for hospitals and for local law enforcement here in South Florida?
Yes, definitely. That is the goal for the dashboard. We're hoping that our dashboard includes all that missing data from other different sources, not only from the hospitals, but also from the safe driver contest that we're doing, the application that we're doing, from the information that we get from the video near misses study that we're also doing as part of the SS4A. And of course, as much information as we can collect from our own municipalities, because our own municipalities sometimes do their own studies. So we're hoping to all of that, put it in that dashboard.
I have a question that comes in from online, and I think maybe Paula and Josette, maybe you both could answer just from your perspective. When using your local projects as an in-kind match or as a planning grant match for either implementation or planning, do those projects become federalized if you're using them as in-kind match?
Well, remember, in order for you to, yes, the short answer is yes. Okay, like if you're using an existing contract, and we had that question yesterday to our lawyer, because we have some ongoing contracts that we want to be able to add more funding there for the implementation part of our grant. And the lawyer was very clear saying, if those contracts were procured in a way that they meet all the federal requirements, yes. Otherwise, no, because you don't know if they meet all the, especially for implementation, yeah, because planning is different, right? You're not, but for implementation, you gotta make sure that you meet Buy America, that you do the verify, that you do all these things that sometimes other contracts may not have included.
Can I add something real quick to that one?
Yeah.
No, that's great feedback. One thing I do want to mention is, and we don't have to go down the rabbit hole here, but SS4A funds are not under Title 23, which means some of the requirements that might be for some other federal programs, say like the Highway Safety Improvement Plan, Transportation Alternatives, CMAQ, may be a bit less specific because our program is purely under 2 CFR 200. And so one thing to consider too is if you happen, I guess federalizing might mean something different if you're only using SS4A funds for a project. So one thing we've run into is if you're trying to mix SS4A funds with other federal funds, then those requirements actually do come onto SS4A. So it's a kind of a weedy thing, but that's one thing I wanted to mention, that you might add some complexity to your SS4A project if you try to mix other federal funds with it. But definitely a great answer by Paula.
And I can add on to that. So as we've been preparing our invoicing for the in-kind matches, we've been making sure that we follow all the requirements that we would need just in case there's any FHWA auditing. And so we've obtaining records and keeping those records very clear so that in the case of whether they decide that they want to audit, we are preparing all those materials just in case. And I don't know if James Cromar is on the line, but if you have anything to add to that, James Cromar is with the Broward MPO.
This is James. Can you repeat that, Josette?
So the question was, are we subject to federalizing our in-kind matches?
Boy, when we had the local match with Broward County, we asked our partners at FHWA to review whether they would be appropriate. They acknowledged that we could use the Broward County match, but Broward County follows a different procurement process that doesn't necessarily comply with the federal process. So they said if we tried to do something in the future, they would need to review it. So what we did in the past worked, but it will require review from FHWA.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you being on, James.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Stephanie.
No questions, just a comment. Town of Jupiter, thank you for this roundtable because we adopted Vision Zero as a policy. Have tons of work, but looking at the Safe Streets grant, gives us hope that we could then submit for a grant to get our Vision Zero action plan done. And get a consultant to do that work since we're super busy. And I'm sure a lot of people here are like that as well. So thank you for that and giving us the mouth feeding that we needed in order to go and do the work that we should be doing as municipalities and representatives of the county. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So now, because we are running out of time, we will be ending this workshop by doing a roundtable discussion. We do have Palm Beach County here and some of our municipalities that have already applied for the planning grant, for the planning funding. So we wanted to ask if you have already reached out to partners in the community about this year's funding cycle, if you are seeking to apply, say, for implementation, or if you're a municipality that has not applied for the planning funds.
I'll just start. Unfortunately, we just lost our representative from Wellington, who's pretty far into their planning grant. They've already executed their contract. I think they're completing their effort in June, and they've reached out to both DOT, who's available online if we need for discussion purposes, and the county to talk about their roadways in the village of Wellington. So I think one of the major takeaways I have, and if I can speak to their benefit and to their to give them some accolades, is that they're working on working with their partners to not be competitive against one another locally. And the reason that's so important is maybe a little bit of a discussion with Paula, but was that one of the pieces of feedback that you received in not being successful the first year for going after implementation, And how can we learn from that?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of your
Was Miami-Dade County, one of the feedback items that it sounded like you received was you went after an implementation grant last year and you did not receive it because there was not enough collaboration. You were competing with municipalities that also went after implementation funds. So what can we learn more specifically about working with partners to develop action plans?
Yeah, so definitely there was some collaboration, but the collaboration has not been to the level that we did it the second time, because they did mention that that was in our discussion after, they did mention that that they wanted to see a more cohesive plan. They wanted to make sure that there was not actually that was something that it kind of helped us, but they said that they saw us as something like a really proactive plan. So the next time we did it in asteroids, we like really went and collaborated with the municipalities. We included their projects in our action plan, and I think that's something key that now we have our municipalities ready to go for implementation funding if they want to. They can just say, I'm adopting the county's action plan. My projects are there, and then we can try to go for implementation funding.
And I can add on to that a little bit. This wasn't something that I mentioned in my presentation, but I meant to. So when we went after the joint application for the safety action plan with the Broward MPO, the intent was that we were going to ask for all the money available, and this would be able to cover the level of analysis that we would need to be able to provide projects and actions that would be supportive of all of our municipalities. And so the idea was is at the end of the day, our action plan, our Broward Safety Action Plan, would be something that each of the municipalities could adopt and use towards implementation grants. So I wanted to make mention of that, and the fact that our Broward MPO also does these really great monthly coordination meetings for grant coordination. And I'm not sure if that's something that you all do in the Palm Beach TPA or down in Miami-Dade, but that is a standard practice in Broward County. Is we also do not want to compete against each other on competitive grants. So we have that coordinated process.
Okay, so I think that we need to close out by doing just a quick round table discussion on where you're all at with your applications or development of the grant. So some of us are not representing cities or counties, but if we could just go around the table quickly and do like 30 to 60 seconds on kind of where you are in your community and working on Safe Streets and Roads for All and how you're collaborating with either your neighbors or other jurisdictions. So I'm going to ask Sean, kick us off. If you could just give a quick intro to who you are, and then we can keep on moving down the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Sean Quell. I'm with INRIX, and we provide a software platform in partnership with General Motors that shows countywide, region-wide safety risk factors, including crashes, near misses, speeding. So really useful across planning, engineering, law enforcement. And so we're working with agencies across the country, and we've done demos with some of you, and happy to keep the conversation going.
Hi, I'm Ibrahim with City Green Acres. I'm actually not sure where City Green Acres is. I think they are awarded some kind of fund already, but I'm not sure. I'm with Public Works, not their planning. I just attended on behalf of the city, but I would like to know where we at as a community. I see Broward and Miami-Dade taking the lead before their municipalities, the smaller ones, and City Green Acres is one of the small ones, at least by the, square miles. So I'd like to ask Palm Beach County where they at, if there's gonna be any coordination and how we can be part of that.
Certainly. Maybe a little bit extra time for Fadi.
Okay, Fadi Nassar with Palm Beach County. In fact, we did apply the first round in 2022, and we didn't have big window. Basically, by the time this award came out, and we had to submit the application. But for us, as we applied as a county, we were limited to $1 million. I mean, MPO can go to 5 million, but as a county, we were limited to 1 million. And in fact, our application is for a total of 800,000. And honestly, it was just focused on the county. I mean, we have jurisdiction over the county road. And we do have something special at the county is that we have our own crash database system. So part of this, grant we want to use to enhance our system and to develop a way where we build new features in our system that the grant, typically you give it to consultant, they give you a snapshot and that's it. For us, we want to be able to build it in our system. So as we update our crash data, we automatically can update our high crash location, high crash network. Our also objective from this grant, develop crash rates. So visually you can see where we have issues, whether it's an intersection or roadway segment. And of course, we want to develop an action plan. So our contract at this point, it's developing the action plan that include those elements that will allow us to evaluate all intersection and roadway network within the county. They could be municipal road, they could be, unincorporated, they could be, basically our database includes everything except the freeways. So anyone can benefit from this database when it's developed, developing average crash rate per type of intersection, per, all kind of categories. So visually you can see right away where the issues are. And as the data is updated, we will have the system kind of live for years to come. And, sometimes we only look at crash data from numerical, but in fact, we're getting into much deeper. For example, if you want to figure out where your left turn crashes, or you want to figure out what your crashes that are not rear end, because typically these are most of them are, driver mistake, or you want to figure out where, incorporate what caused the accident. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And that system will be available to everyone to check once we build it. But at the same time, we want to go through the process, develop Vision Zero, have a big participation from various aspects of the county. For those who are not in Palm Beach County, we have area we call CCRT, which are underserved area. We have about 77 of them. We already deal with them on a regular basis to develop, to have improvement to help them out. They have unique criteria to meet some traffic calming or, improving lighting or anything than the rest of the county. So we're going to have participation from them. We're going to have participation from the west side of the county, which is really much more rural. We're going to have participation from the school, from the sheriff's office. So we're trying to develop, as bigger a group as possible to come up with this, safety plan. We're looking forward to coordinate with everyone, and hopefully, what we learned today, there's potential for applying for, if you can have a more comprehensive implementation application that include county and others, including maybe the TPA and cities, that probably increase our chances, since this is much more competitive than either demonstration project or the action plan. And we're honestly looking forward, and we thank, TPA, especially, Valentina, for setting it up. We definitely need to coordinate. At this point, we haven't even awarded the contract. It took us a long time to go through the process of having, our contract approved by the commissioner. That's happened only a couple of months ago, and right now we're in the process of, hiring a consulting firm to do the work. So, and we are benefiting from everybody's experience, and it's been extremely valuable. And I also have to thank, James from the Broward MPO for setting regular meeting for everybody who had a grant to get involved, including from North Florida and other places, to share our experience. That's extremely useful.
We're for Palm Beach County, but Fadi speaks for Parks and Rec.
I kind of triple that. I work for the planning division, which is actually a division of planning, zoning, and building. So we don't apply for grants. But we work with engineering and, you know, we amend the comp plan to include things like Vision Zero and such. So, I mean, we're working kind of in a deeper level, but we certainly do work with FODI, you know, as much as possible.
Hi, Joanne Square from Planning and Zoning and Palm Beach Gardens. Big thank you to Josette and Paula. Excellent presentations. A little overwhelming because the scope of what you all are doing is a lot bigger than what we're doing as a local municipality, but still inspiring and a lot of food for thought. And big thank you to the TPA for setting up this roundtable. And I hope that there will be more in the future so that we can all share our experience and learn from what we're doing. As far as Palm Beach Gardens Safe Streets journey, we were awarded a planning grant with this past cycle. And so we're in the very early stages of having our grant agreement reviewed and approved by FHWA. So we don't have a lot to share beyond that, but I would really, my personal goal is to learn a lot more about how, once that action plan is complete, how we're able to transition to applying for more implementation grants and what the scope of those grants are. And quite specifically, how, if there's ways to, look at providing transit supportive alternatives within that implementation grant.
Quinn Williams, City Delray Beach. We've been awarded the first round to do our action plan. We're kind of just working through the paperwork right now, try to figure out where we're gonna go, and we're hoping to work with the consultant to kind of get a better idea of where we want to do different just different ideas, especially in our pedestrian network in our lower income areas. Also wanting to really try to figure out how we can work with the county and with the state because those are our bigger areas of concern. But yeah, just kind of where we are.
Stephanie Thoburn, Town of Jupiter. I'm interested in getting all of your submittals so we can look at how you did it.
I'm Tracy Phelps, City of Boca Raton. We had just advertised not long ago for our consultant. We did when we won the planning, the award last year. And we seem to have weekly numerous meetings with companies, data companies and consultants from all over the United States who's interested in working with this for this project. So we advertised not long ago. I don't know the exact date. So we will be going through the process and awarding the contract hopefully pretty soon and within the next month or two. We're going to do a lot of demonstrations also. We've already discussed that, and I think we're working our traffic engineer. The reason he ain't here, he isn't here because he's working on something today. Some demonstration parts to what we want to do, and hopefully we can get this done real quick because we're ready to move it to implementation because we got many ideas, and we'll actually probably start doing some with our own money, type of things like that. But that's where we're at, and hopefully to start moving forward real quick.
All right. Good afternoon. Craig Pender, City of Boynton Beach. I'm with Planning and Zoning. Within Planning and Zoning, we don't really apply for the grants, but Mosey and Myrner, they're both here from Boynton Beach as well, so I will divert to them. But thank you all for the presentations. They were extremely informative, and I enjoyed them all.
Lisa Nisensen, I'm working with Lake Worth Beach to develop their plan. We were hired to do their mobility plan and decided early on to structure it to be both the mobility plan and the safety action plan. We are now in the process of identifying projects.
Thank you.
Tom Lanahan, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We are about to go under contract, if you will, interlocal agreement with Green Acres to do their action plan for the grant that they were awarded. And looking forward to getting that underway with them. And I'm very happy to hear that Palm Beach County is moving forward with their efforts as well. Typical to the cities in Palm Beach County, but especially in the case of a Green Acres, mostly bisected by county and state roadways. Very little city roadway system beyond 2-lane roads, but it'll be interesting to see how that all interconnects. So thank you.
Thank you. And did I see Denise Malone's hand raised potentially? Are you still online? And that's okay. I think it might have put your hand down. So I appreciate the update. We got full picture.
Hi,
Oh, there you are.
can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hi. Yes, Denise Malone. Actually, Tom Lanahan eloquently stated where we're at with the plan. We are working with them. We will go forward with the safety action plan, and we're happy to have Treasure Coast be part of this with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mosey Biltmanov with engineering at the city of Boynton Beach. Myrna and I right now are working on the action plan. We're using the comp plan that we have in conjunction with it to create it. As of right now, we're also identifying projects that we can use to meet the 5-year plan.
And I believe, Mosey, the city of Boynton Beach is also interested in applying for the planning grant. Is that right?
Yes, we're planning to apply for that on the May deadline.
Thank you.
Myrna Crompton from Boynton. We are putting the application together for the planning grant for Safe Streets for All. I want to thank Mosey, of course, and thank you guys because you answer a lot of our questions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeff Amara. I'm Vice Mayor at Royal Palm Beach, but I'm also a member of the TPA here in Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. And as I normally do, I find these roundtables to be very informative and very helpful. Unfortunately, Royal Palm Beach right now is one of the 26 municipalities that have not yet adopted Vision Zero. But the good news is, I think we're headed that way. And this kind of insight into what's going on really and what's available out there and how to go about obtaining the funds, which at the end of the day, it's always about money as a way to accelerate or stall something that's a good idea, is a really, really helpful thing. So I'm going to be taking this back to our council and also to the staff. I heard two things mentioned, something that I've interpreted as collaboration with the county. Whenever you have opportunities to do good things and they kind of overlap, they're also an opportunity to amplify the impact through collaboration and coordination. So I encourage that definitely. And the other thing is a comment about the mobility plan. I was sitting here thinking about a larger sense, that kind of thing, whether it be a transportation plan or something else. And I was thinking, lo and behold, this is just like an element of it. It needs to be part of that planning. It, again, would be much more effective that way. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Before we cap off conversation, I think any last parting words from our speakers?
Yes, this is Josette Severin. I just wanted to put in a plug for the Broward MPO. It was mentioned earlier that the MPO has been doing a statewide collaborative meeting quarterly with any of the recipients of the SS4A funds in the 2022 cycle. So they'll be putting together some lessons learned. So if anybody has any questions or comments geared towards what has been learned so far about the 2022 cycle, you can certainly reach out to James Cromar or Fazil Qureshi with the Broward MPO, and they can also help you with that process as well. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me to speak.
Thank you. Paola?
Yeah, I just want to say that don't get discouraged if you don't win some. Maybe the next opportunity will be much better and you'll be more ready, which is the case that happened with us. So keep on going at it, collaborate with your agencies. That's super important. At the end, we all want the same goal, right? To achieve Vision Zero. So, keep on going with that. And even if the county already has its action plan, remember some municipalities may not be, for example, we have some municipalities that were not in the top 100 or in the high injury network, but they still want to do their own action plan. So their action plan, their application is refining the findings. So go for it.
You know, from everything we've learned is that the implementation plans are much more competitive. And I really believe that maybe the TPA should take initiative and have us all combine our effort into one implementation plan that will give us much higher rate of success. We're all doing now our own action plan and maybe demonstration project, but I really believe to get to the implementation, we can combine our effort and go for something big, and I think we'll have much higher chance.
So, Fadi, I'll let Valentina start, and I'll reserve some remarks. So, do you want to say anything? Okay, so first, I just want to say thank you for that. I think that there's a reason we scheduled this roundtable discussion right after our Vision Zero Action Committee, because I believe that this committee needs to also transform and be more of an action committee and implementation committee, and have a greater focus on collaborating and coordinating our projects together. So you'll probably see either a monthly or bi-monthly effort where we're going to take this agenda, this committee, potentially shorten the meeting, and then move immediately into discussion on our Safe Streets and Roads for All efforts. And that is a really effective way to have everybody in the same room for this, discussing the same topic at the same time, and then moving forward on our implementation efforts. That's the first thing I just wanted to say. The second thing I just wanted to say is thank you all for your time. I know we're excessively over about 10 minutes, so I appreciate you giving us a little bit extra of your Thursday, but also to our speakers, Paula and Josette, for coming up from Broward and Miami-Dade. And then, of course, Darren, if you're still out there in the ether, we appreciate you all as well, participating. It's very helpful to have it coming straight from the administration. So we really appreciate you participating.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. We will be sharing the PowerPoint presentation if anybody is interested. And this concludes our workshop.